Hello there, Rolling Rangers. I wanted to briefly talk about the Ranger Sprint and review it in this video, as I've had a lot of time with it now. In the previous games, Earth Defense Force games, Ranger had to always roll like this to get any place with any speed at all. And it was a little bit annoying trying to travel distances like this because, for one, it wasn't very fast, and for two, it was just kind of annoying always having to angle your camera and just roll everywhere to get anywhere. And I mean, obviously nothing's more beautiful and terrifying than seeing a grown man roll, but it is time for him to get his big boy pants on and actually learn how to run. So as you can see, I'm wearing rubber pants. They're pretty nice and glittering in the rain here. But Insect Armageddon, the next game that came out, which wasn't made by the same developer, but they attempted to add a sprint to the Ranger class as well, and it was just pretty much a dedicated sprint button, and you would just hold it to sprint, and you couldn't fire your gun while you were sprinting, but you could still sprint from just different location to location. That wasn't too bad in my opinion. It was okay, but the sprint in EDF 5 was actually another genius decision in my opinion, as far as what they could have done. With the addition of auxiliary items, you can now change how the sprint works for Ranger. So if you have no item at all, the sprint item pretty much, or the sprinting, allows you to travel long distances without having to roll the whole time. And it's about the same speed as just constantly rolling. It also includes a collection ring around your feet, so it's easier to collect items. But this alone is fine because it kind of gets away from having the roll to get to different places, but it's not very fast, of course. It's just more of a, this is if you have like a vehicle equipped or an item that's not a sprinting, this is what you have for sprinting, which is fine in my opinion because it allows him to still have a sprint, but it's not like a special, very fast or, sprint that gives you different abilities. It's just a regular sprint to keep you from having to roll from place to place, which is nice. It's not for evading enemies either, because it's a very slow startup. As you can see, if I start here, it takes them a while to accelerate and then to start running. So it's more of like a sprint just to travel from place to place. However, Ranger can be very fast with the right item, and it feels like the sprinting in this game is more of a tactical kind of sprint, more of a deliberate sprint. The Ranger class has always been a class to pick for a challenge. Like, for example, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of it, but in Japan it's very common for EDF fans to do like challenge runs. There's a lot of videos online on YouTube where they're just doing like Ranger only runs or just like low armor runs with Ranger. I also enjoy this, so I was a little concerned when they were mentioning about adding a sprint to the game that they were going to make Ranger too fast of a class, or maybe too simple of a class compared to, compared to his previous games, because he's always been, like I said, a challenging class to play as. But now your sprinting item has a lot of options. So let's go back to the item selection here. So now for accelerating items, you have options as far as what you want to pick. So that's why I mentioned it's more of like a tactical sprint. For example, it affects your walking speed now. It affects your running speed. It affects your acceleration from a standstill. It affects your turning speed while you're running. It also affects how much you get slowed down while you're taking damage while you run. Like, for example, if you're running and you're taking damage from gunfire or spiders or whatever, you'll be slowed down like normally, unless you have an item to counter that. It also affects if you can destroy an obstacle while you're sprinting, and if you can be knocked down even while you're sprinting or even walking. So as you can see, there's more options to choose as you're sprinting, and not just a single button dedicated to moving fast, which I like personally. So let me cover the best ones now that I think, as far as my opinion goes, as far as the sprinting items that he has. If you just want to be fast as you can, but acceleration isn't a huge deal, then level 67, level 42, and level 11 are your best ones here, because they allow you to have very fast sprinting speed for that level. So for example, for playing on normal, I guess it'd be probably normal or low levels on normal, having access to 150% sprint is very, very fast. Whereas when you're playing on Inferno, you have access to 200% sprinting speed, which is very nice. The acceleration is only 100%, so it's not anything special for the acceleration, but It's a very, very good item. Actually, I use this all the time on Inferno. It's probably my most used sprinting item for Ranger. Most used item in general, probably for Ranger. Even with the inclusion of the DLC. And the reason is because level 67 reduces all slowdown you take from damage as you sprint. So if somebody's shooting at you, like a colonist or a cosmonaut, are shooting at you while you're running away, you're not going to be slowed down. You can get away as long as you have enough health for it. And that's a very important thing, in my opinion, for a sprinting item. This also allows you to run through obstacles, which is nice. And so let's go ahead and take this out really quickly, just to show it. But like I said, this is definitely one of the ones I go to an awful lot. And I think it's one of the most useful because you can outrun most enemies on Inferno with this item. You can't outrun, you know, wasps or tadpoles or anything like that, but you can outrun even gold ants as long as you're you know, moving left and right a little bit and going through buildings a little bit here and there, but you are able to fast enough. As you can see, you're pretty fast with this item. So it's a very, very cool item. And like I said, it's more of a deliberate sprint though. Like for example, you're not going to use it probably to get away instantly from an enemy, because as you can see, it takes a little bit of time to get up to that speed. But once you do, you can get away very fast. So it just depends. If you really need acceleration, then you take a different item. So let me go back now and select one of those acceleration items. So now if you just need acceleration and walking speed, because this next item affects both of those, then your best item is going to be, I'm not talking about DLC, but DLC does have options. It does have, for example, this has 400% acceleration, 160%. I always mix those two up. If it's 175% running and 160% walking. So you can walk very fast and accelerate very fast with these items. I was going to mention the actual campaign item, which is up here, level 82, which also has 400% acceleration, 140 walking and 150% running. And this item also lets you run through obstacles, which is important. So it's mainly for acceleration items. You're going to be choosing what you want for a secondary effect. Like for example, do you want to destroy obstacles? Because not all these acceleration ones do. Or do you want to have less slowdown from damage incoming? Not all of them do that. And 67 is the only one that gives you high speed and no damage slowdown at all. Whereas these high acceleration ones have, like, I think the max is 50% reduction of slowdown from incoming fire. So let me go ahead and take one of the acceleration items. This is more of the typical sprint you're going to see if you want to be, I guess, probably the most similar to Insect Armageddon, where you want to use the sprint while you're fighting. So, like, for example, a common thing I'll do is I will, as I'm reloading, like saying, for example, I'm reloading this shotgun, I'll just start sprinting until I'm done reloading, and then I'll roll out of my sprint and then start fighting again. And that's a little tip. You want to make sure you roll out of your sprint, because if you don't, you have like a stopping animation. So by rolling out of it, you can instantly fight, or you can instantly change weapons and fight, or whatever you want to do. So this is more of like the sprinting while you're fighting, which is kind of nice. You still have an option for that. You do have to turn around to sprint, but I mean, after all, this game is rooted in reality, so of course it makes sense you're not going to be sprinting backwards. And also he has a quicker walking speed, which may not seem that obvious, but when you play the game, it'll be more obvious as far as how valuable that is. Because as you're not having to roll as much, because if you're walking faster, you're not going to have to roll as much away from the enemies. You're able to actually do the jumping tactic that I made a video on as well, so you can actually get away from the enemy while you're doing the jumping up and down, rather than, you know, rolling away from the enemy to get away from them to dodge. But this is your probably most action or in battle sprinting you're going to pick. So that's a nice option as well for sprinting. And then finally, there's a unique sprinting item that keeps you from being knocked down at all, which is pretty cool. Cool idea. It's useful for, you know, rolly ball levels or explosive damage if you're expecting to take a lot of explosive damage. It's level 60 and level 35. These keep you from both of these keep you from getting knocked down. So let's go ahead and take 60. Also gives you sprinting options, which is nice. It gives you 200% acceleration, more running speed, walking speed. In addition to that, whereas 35 just keeps you from getting knocked down. So let's go ahead and take one of those. And Let's take it on a rolly ball level here so that we can show that. Which one is that mission? There's so many missions in this game. I should know this. It's like 86 or something. 87. There we go. I'll just take it on normal because I don't want to mess around with the health issues. So this is a unique item for missions like this. And also, as you can see, I'll show you that you can actually shoot yourself with a rocket launcher and it doesn't hurt you either. Or it doesn't knock you down. I mean, it hurts you, of course. But it doesn't knock you down like it normally would. But as you know, these enemies are very annoying to deal with as a ranger because they'll constantly knock you down and they can hit you while you're down as well. So as you'll be able to see here, they cannot knock you down when they roll over you. Come on. There we go. As you can see, they just hit you, they don't knock you down. So very useful for missions like these with these enemies. And also if you plan on taking any kind of explosive damage, you're concerned about getting knocked down, not being able to recover. It also would keep you from getting knocked down from, you know, Ergenesis and stuff like that as well, so kind of nice. But it does make a big difference on this specific mission actually as well, because you can constantly stay up, standing up, and fighting the whole time. Now, I don't really want to consider these sprinting items, but in addition to, you know, all these other options, he does have other options in addition, which is used. Healing is one item you can take, so either you can take sprinting, you know, speed, or a vehicle, or there's some other options like healing options to heal himself and NPCs more, or affecting his missile launchers and all that. So there's more options which I cover in a different video about all his items, but I just wanted to cover the sprint mainly in this game. So overall, I would say I never would have thought this. I would never have thought up this sprinting mechanic myself, but I absolutely love it personally. I think it's a very deliberate and tactical sprint. It doesn't make him a super fast class. It still allows him to be a challenging class to play as, and that's pretty much my overall thoughts. And I was also like to know what you guys think in the comments. So I would say go ahead and tell me what you guys, if you like to sprint in this game or not, or just what you think about it. So pretty much I definitely am for this sprint. I hope they continue with it in the future, but we'll see what happens. But once again, thanks a lot for watching, and remember, EDF doesn't leave a man behind, ever. And also, if you'd like to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. It does make a big difference. Thanks.